Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we need to have a serious talk about what's happening with West Ham. After the defeat to Crystal Palace at the London Stadium, the atmosphere turned heavy and the pressure on Graham Potter reached a new level. The fans are losing patience and for many the limit has already been crossed. The match against Palace exposed old problems the fans had already been pointing out. The defense remains unstable, conceding goals from set pieces and leaving huge gaps between the lines. Mateta opened the scoring for the visitors. Bowen managed to equalize, but soon after Mitchell scored the second and killed off any reaction. Final result, another defeat, the fourth in the last 5 games, and West Ham sliding down the table into the relegation zone. But what really marked the day were the protests. Even before kickoff, hundreds of fans gathered outside the stadium to demonstrate against David Sullivan and Karen Brady. Banners, chants, and signs demanded changes, accusing the owners of destroying the club's identity. Inside the stadium, boos echoed during the match, especially when the team looked lost on the pitch. The atmosphere became unbearable, and it's no exaggeration to say that patience has run out. In the press conference, Graham Potter admitted the situation is dire. He said the level of performance is not good enough, that the team must be more stable both defensively and offensively, and that everyone has to come together to find solutions. But for many fans, those words are no longer enough. The feeling is that there's a lack of clarity, no defined style, no leadership on the pitch. The truth is the team looks like it has no identity. The midfield remains slow, unable to close spaces or speed up transitions. The central defense inspires no confidence at all. It feels like constant improvisation with players not knowing their exact roles. Even Bowen wearing the captain's armband sparks debates. Does he really have the leadership profile to carry it in such a turbulent moment? Meanwhile, the fullbacks still seem the most reliable area, but that's far too little to hold up a team that urgently needs to react. The fans also question Potter's choices in lineups and substitutions. Players come in and out with no clear criteria, tactical changes don't work, and matches slip away from the coach without him being able to turn things around. All of this erodes the confidence of both the squad and the stands. And when confidence is gone, any small detail becomes a huge problem. The club in turn released a statement saying it understands the fans' frustration and assuring that it is listening to the protests. But this institutional response doesn't convince anyone. What the supporters want is action on the pitch, results, performance. No one can stand more promises that things will get better. What is being demanded is a clear identity, a team that represents the supporters' fight and passion. And what about Graham Potter's future? It looks more uncertain by the day. The English press are already mentioning possible replacements such as Nuno Espirito, Santoslavan Bilic, and Gary O'Neill. This shows that the board, even if still officially backing the coach, has started to look at alternatives. And let's be honest, if results don't come quickly, his departure may be only a matter of time. Meanwhile, January is approaching and the fans are crying out for reinforcements. The attack is aging and physically fragile, the midfield needs more pace and intensity, and the central defense lacks stability. But until the transfer window opens, the challenge is to survive, pick up points, and try to calm things down. Only practical changes will do that, not just speeches. West Ham today are seen from the outside as a club without tactics, without direction, and at real risk of sinking even further. To change that perception, they'll need attitude, organization, and above all, results. The next match is already a must-win. If the team doesn't react, Potter's position could become untenable. And more importantly, the relationship between fans and club, already fragile, could break down even further. It's one of those moments where West Ham need to look in the mirror and decide what kind of club they want to be. The crisis has exposed both structural and tactical weaknesses, but it has also shown that the fans' passion will not be silenced. The message has been delivered: either things change or the pressure will only grow. That's the situation, and now the question remains, what will be the next chapter of this story? Do you think Graham Potter can turn things around, or has the point of no return already been passed? Leave your opinion in the comments, share this video, and subscribe to the channel to follow every detail of this West Ham drama. And a situation that was already dramatic gained even more fuel with the coverage from the international press. Speaking on beIN Sports, Andy Gray did not hide his surprise at what is happening with West Ham. He highlighted the fact that the team have now gone 8 consecutive home games without a win in the Premier League. Something simply unacceptable for a club of this size. With a simple wow, the former player summed up the shock and disbelief that many fans are currently feeling. The numbers leave little room for optimistic interpretations. Against Crystal Palace, West Ham registered only 0.68 in expected goals, while their opponent reached 2-14, the Hammers managed just 8 shots compared to Palace's 18, with only 3 of them on target. This exposes not only a glaring lack of offensive strength, but also a defense that allows far too much. In total, the team have already conceded 13 goals this season, 7 of them from corners. A frightening statistic that shows Potter's inability to correct recurring mistakes. The pressure on David Sullivan, the most visible figure of the board, is also growing with every match. The protests before the Palace game were yet another clear demonstration that fans have had enough of unfulfilled promises. The club's hierarchy is viewed as part of the problem, not the solution, and calls for structural change are only increasing. Combined with a run of 8 home matches without victory, it is clear that supporter patience has run out and confidence in the current project is in pieces. The numbers leave little room for optimistic interpretations. Against Crystal Palace, West Ham registered only 0.68 in expected goals while their opponent reached 214. The Hammers managed just 8 shots compared to Palace's 18, with only 3 of them on target. This exposes not only a glaring lack of offensive strength, but also a defense that allows far too much. In total, the team have already conceded 13 goals this season, 7 of them from corners, a frightening statistic that shows Potter's inability to correct recurring mistakes. The pressure on David Sullivan, the most visible figure of the board, is also growing with every match. The protests before the Palace game were yet another clear demonstration that fans have had enough of unfulfilled promises. The club's hierarchy is viewed as part of the problem, not the solution, and calls for structural change are only increasing. Combined with a run of 8 home matches without victory, it is clear that supporter patience has run out, and confidence in the current project is in pieces. David Sullivan. On the pitch, the story keeps repeating itself. Beyond the poorly defended corners, another alarming figure stands out since January 2024, including the final stretch under David Moyes. West Ham have conceded 3 or more goals in 21 matches. This is not a minor detail. It is a portrait of a team unable to organize defensively and against any reasonably structured opponent at risk of being torn apart. It is as if the defense has become a permanent invitation for rivals to exploit. The relationship between Potter and the fans has reached breaking point. Boos echoed around the London Stadium during the second half, particularly after unpopular substitutions. To make matters worse, the chant of "You're getting sacked in the morning" spread across the stands, making it clear that the supporters' trust is gone. Many now compare the current coach to Avram Grant, one of the least fondly remembered names in the club's recent history. This is a major blow to Potter's reputation, especially considering he arrived surrounded by expectations after his Chelsea spell, but has failed even to produce a competitive team. Given this backdrop, the debate is no longer about if Potter will go, but when. The English press report that West Ham are already holding conversations with potential replacements, which suggests the board are not planning to waste time. If the dismissal is confirmed in the coming days, it will be interpreted as a sign that the search for a new manager has been underway for some time. Among the names being discussed, some stand out more than others. Sean Dyche, known for his pragmatic and disciplined approach, could give the side the defensive solidity they so badly lack and at least provide stability to move them away from the relegation fight. Slaven Bilic, a familiar face to the fans, has expressed interest in returning and could rekindle the emotional connection the club desperately needs right now, bringing back some of the pride that seems lost. Nuno Espirito Santo, already circulating in rumors with unconfirmed sightings in East London, is another candidate who could offer a more balanced approach, mixing defensive organization with possession-based play. And Gary O'Neill, a coach on the rise, appears as a bet for the future, someone who could shape a new identity for the Hammers if given the backing and patience of the board. The choice of successor will be decisive. More than just swapping managers, West Ham need to define what kind of identity they want to adopt. It is not enough to bring in someone to put out fires. The club must appoint a figure capable of rebuilding confidence in the squad, providing tactical clarity, and restoring the bond with the supporters. This is a moment where any wrong decision could prove costly, not only in the league table, but also in the historical relationship with the fans. It is a crossroads that will determine not only the fate of this season, but also the long-term direction of the club. Meanwhile, Graham Potter looks increasingly isolated. His post-match interviews already sound repetitive, filled with references to hard work and unity, but without any evidence of progress on the pitch. The team keeps making the same mistakes, and the impression is that the coach no longer has the resources to turn things around. This disconnect between words and reality is exactly what fuels fan anger as they refuse to accept more promises of change without visible results. The immediate future of West Ham depends on a crucial decision. Persisting with Potter could mean prolonging the crisis and dragging the team into a relegation battle, which would carry serious sporting and financial consequences. On the other hand, moving quickly to appoint a new manager could provide the spark needed to reignite hope and perhaps put the Irons back on track before it is too late. This is a moment of urgency, and the clock is ticking against Potter. With every match without a win, the pressure grows and the protests intensify. The board know they cannot ignore the clamor from the stands. The real question now is who will be chosen to take on the responsibility of rebuilding not only results but also the lost identity of a club that has always prided itself on its grit, its working-class roots, and its visceral connection to its fans. More than ever, West Ham needs someone who represents that spirit, because only then will it be possible to restore dignity to the team and trust to those who have always filled the terraces. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. West Ham are experiencing one of the most turbulent periods in their recent history, and the defeat to Crystal Palace only highlighted how deep the problems run. The weaknesses have been building up for some time, a defense that regularly concedes from set pieces, a midfield that is too slow and lacks intensity, and an attack that fails to deliver when it matters most. On top of that, there is a growing sense that the team has no clear identity or defined style of play. Graham Potter, who was brought in with the promise of providing a new direction and long-term project, has not managed to turn his words into action. As a result, he now finds himself under immense pressure, facing protests from the supporters' boos echoing around the stadium and relentless speculation about his possible dismissal. Beyond the pitch, the unrest is equally strong. David Sullivan and the board are now the main targets of fan frustration, accused of lacking vision and of having stripped the club of its identity. Supporters are demanding major changes at the highest level, arguing that promises and statements no longer carry any credibility. Meanwhile, the numbers on the pitch speak for themselves: 8 consecutive home matches without a win, 13 goals conceded so far this season, 7 of them from corners alone. These statistics reflect a fragile, unorganized team that has lost the confidence of its fan base. In such a climate, discussions about successors are becoming increasingly open. The names mentioned, Sean Dyche, Slaven Bilic, Nuno Espirito Santo, and Gary O'Neill, represent a range of options, all seen as capable of bringing discipline, tactical clarity, and stability back to the squad. The reality is that Potter's position looks ever more precarious, and many believe it is only a matter of time before the board takes decisive action. If results do not improve quickly, the season could spiral further out of control, and the cost of inaction could be devastating. West Ham are now at a crossroads, facing a critical decision about the club's future. Either the leadership acts decisively to restore confidence, rebuild identity, and show the fans a clear plan, or the risk of deeper collapse becomes very real. What is at stake is not just the outcome of this season, but also the long-term credibility and direction of the club. The passion of the supporters remains unwavering, but their patience has worn thin. Without bold decisions, West Ham could find themselves dragged into a crisis that will be extremely difficult to escape.